Hi, I'm Cheryl Dorchinsky, Executive Founding Director for Atlanta Israel Coalition, and I'd like to welcome everybody to our tour of the Old City, Jerusalem, for this Hanukkah. We have people tuning in from all over the world, and I truly couldn't be more excited to have you here. Thanks. We definitely couldn't have done this without the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta and our wonderful community sponsor, Morbito Wealth Management. Please use the webinar Q&A if you have any questions. We'll be answering them throughout the tour. We need to thank our promotional partners, the Consulate General of Israel to the Southeast region, World Harut, Kaplan, Friends of Kaplan Medical Center, the Atlanta JCRC, B'nai B'rith International, Jump Spark, YJLC, Hillels of Georgia, Marcus, JCC Atlanta, the Weber School, Rams for Israel, Beth Jacob Atlanta, Congregation B'nai Torah, Chabad Kennesaw, Chabad North Fulton, Gesher LaTorah, Temple Kol Emeth, Congregation Etz Chaim, and Congregation Dor Tamid. Thank you all for promoting us. And we definitely need to thank the media for promoting our tour. Without all of this promotion, all of you wouldn't be here. So again, welcome. Thank you. We are now 2 years old. Glad that you could join us for this. We're a nonprofit and we strive to unite and educate. And with these challenging times, we wanted to bring you to Israel to see the beauty of Hanukkah and celebrate. We're grateful to have David Sussman with us today, leading the tour. He is an international speaker and a world-renowned tour guide. So without any delay, I'd like to welcome David.
Good morning, Atlanta. How are you all doing? Phil, let me get a thumbs up. I got Phil, my cameraman, here with me. He's let me know you all hear me, and I'm happy about that. I understand we have hundreds of people from Atlanta and dozens of people around the world that heard the message that we are bringing the Chanakya lighting, the Menorah lighting live here from the Western Wall behind me in Ir HaKodesh, the holy city, the city of Jerusalem. And we are excited to present this to you. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is David Sussman. I have been to Atlanta several times. I love the city. I've spoken at the Ariel congregation, Beth Jacob, and other organizations and institutions around Atlanta as well. And I'm happy to call Atlanta one of my homes, truly. David Sussman, I'm originally from Boston, made Aliyah about 20 years ago. Served in the army here, 2006, during our campaign in Lebanon. I had a near-death experience that really changed my world and a complete paradigm shift of what's truly important. And at that time, I decided to dedicate my life to bringing the reality of the facts on the ground here in Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, to the masses around the world. And I do that primarily through guiding families and organizations, many trips from Atlanta Yeshiva, or Jewish Academy, I think it was. It used to be GHA. I guided several times for them, as well as Momentum, and as well as for Beth Jacob organizations. But I also had a television show called Land of the Bible that was aired for 4 seasons, and I speak internationally about Jewish identity. But I'm really here today with all of you to bring you the Festival of Lights from Jerusalem, and I'm happy to be able to do that. Let me just say thank you to the AIC, the Atlanta Israel Coalition, and I'm sure you all realize already that with the work that I do, I work with hundreds of organizations. And I have to say that from top to bottom, the Atlanta Israel Coalition is doing one of the best jobs out there, connecting the community of Atlanta across a broad spectrum. And you heard Cheryl talk about all their partners, from the right to the left, from the top to the bottom, all points in between. They work with everybody, bringing Israel and making Israel a real part of people's lives in Atlanta. So I can't thank the Atlanta Israel Coalition enough for all of the work that they're doing for something that I'm passionate about, which is Israel. And if you want to show your support and your gratitude, your thanks during this time to the Atlanta Israel Coalition, you guys have received an email, you receive another email, please give a contribution to them. The work that they're doing is important for us who are living here, but maybe even more important for all of you who are living there in Atlanta, bringing Israel to you. So as you can see behind me, we have the Western Wall, we have the Kotel, the oftentimes considered the holiest place in Judaism, but it's really not the holiest place. I don't want to burst your bubble here and shock anybody, but it's really not the holiest place. The holiest place is what's on the other side of the wall, and that is the place where the temple was built, the first and the second temple. Guys, come look over here. David Friedman, Ambassador David Friedman, come around here. This is who's going to be lighting the Chanakya with us. You can see over here, and not only that, but you also have some famous rabbis who are with him as well. Come around here, Phil. You get a look at David Friedman, the ambassador. He's done so much here for Israel during this present administration in America. He's been here for about 4 years. Get closer, Phil. Go on. Muscle your way in there. Get a little bit of view of him. How exciting is it to see Ambassador David Friedman here? Wonderful, wonderful, fantastic. Okay, Phil, swing back right around here. I'll say one of my claims to fame is that his brother brought his family out here several years ago, and I was his family's guide here in Israel before he was ambassador. So it must be talking about 6 years ago. Anyhow, I was saying is that the Western Wall, it's not the holiest place for the Jewish people. The holiest place is on the other side where the temple stood, the first and the second temple. And of course, with a third temple, hopefully is going to be built very, very soon. Here comes Rabbi Friedman, Ambassador Friedman. David Friedman is walking here towards the Western Wall. They are going to be lighting the Chanakya. How exciting is this, the Chanakya? Shalom. Shalom. Wonderful. Yeah, let's see. Let's see if we can get a little bit close. So I'm going to continue talking here as we follow Ambassador Friedman down. Hopefully we'll be able to get close to the Chanakya. You guys will be able to see it over to the right-hand side. And I have a lot to share. I have a lot to share throughout the tour. And during the tour, at the end, we're going to be bringing you through the alleyways of the old city. And we're going to see some of the Chanukiot, the menorahs, that are lit by the families who live here, stacking up these menorahs, lighting up the streets of Jerusalem. So come, we're going to continue this way. And you can see because of COVID, obviously everybody has the masks on. And everybody's also, you have all of these different sections here, trying to keep everybody as separated as possible. This is a place of prayer for many people, for most people who visit here. And so each little cubicle is a prayer section as well. For the morning, the afternoon, the evening prayers, for any time that anybody wants to come and pray here. So what we are going to do is I'm going to grab two of these chairs, one for Phil and one for myself. You want to give you a hand up, Phil? Let me take this. You got that? Okay, you can hold on to this if you need to. You got a good view of it? Wonderful. Okay, this is so exciting, guys. This is really, really so exciting. You know, usually Hanukkah is a very, very busy time as a tour guide. Usually Eretz Yisrael, Israel's packed with tourists. Due to the COVID-19, the closure of our borders, the only way tour guides like myself can bring Israel to you, to the masses, to the people who live outside of Israel, is through these virtual Zoom tours. So this is the first time that I'm actually broadcasting the lighting of the Chanukah on Zoom. So do bear with us as we deal with some logistical issues, as we bounce back and forth and around, and try and bring you the best experience possible. So let me tell you a little bit about what we will be doing today here, okay? And again, I thank you all for joining on your beautiful Sunday morning. on the third day of Hanukkah for you as we enter the fourth night of Hanukkah here in Israel. We are going to witness the ceremony, the lighting of the Chanakya by Ambassador David Friedman, and we did not know it was going to be Ambassador David Friedman. They do not tell the people who it's going to be because sometimes it's the prime minister, maybe it's a diplomat from another country who's here, and obviously if it's going to be somebody as important as Ambassador David Friedman, a lot more people are going to come. So they don't tell you who it's going to be, but we just saw him, so we have to safely assume it will be him. We're going to see the lighting of the menorah, of the Chanakya, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Western Wall in general. I tried to do that in the beginning a little bit, but you know the time is it's a little crazy over here right now. And then we're going to walk through the Jewish quarter, and we're going to meet some of the residents, some of the people who live here, and talk to them about what it's like to live in the Old City here in Jerusalem, the holiest place in the world. And we're also going to see some of the important sites here in the Jewish quarter. What a great way to spend your morning in Atlanta, here really virtually in Jerusalem. So let me just get started until we wait for the dignitaries to arrive for the lighting of the Chanakya, which should be happening anytime. And there are a lot of people here, even though it is COVID-19. You can see there's a lot of people here. But Phil, give the people just a little gander, 360 degrees. You can see there's a big projector screen on the wall so that the people who are in the back sections who couldn't get this close, that they can witness and they can see the menorah lighting, the Chanakya lighting as well. Use your finger to point it out there, Phil, if you can. No, you can't? Okay. Yeah, there you go. Boom, right there. That's the big projector screen for the people. Usually there'd be tens of thousands of people here, but there are thousands of people who are here right now. So let me continue with what I was saying before, right? Because a lot of people are in shock when they hear me tell them that the Western Wall is not the holiest place to the Jewish people. That really the holy place is on the other side, right? It's the place where Yaakov, Jacob, that we just read about a couple weeks ago, had his dream, right? And in his dream, he saw the ladder with the angels going up and the angels going down. Why did he have that dream in that location? And why was the temple built on that location? And that is because that is the interface, according to Jewish mysticism, according to fundamental Jewish idea, is that's the interface between everything metaphysical, everything infinite, everything beyond our mind's capability of understanding, which we'll call Hashem, we'll call that God, right? So the interface between God and his creation and the world that we live in. That's really the holiest place. But of course, that was destroyed by the Romans nearly 2,000 years ago in the year 70 CE. Since then, the closest we could get to that location is the Western Wall behind me, where the Chanakya is located right now. אי אפשר לעמוד פה? אי אפשר לעמוד פה? הבנתי. גם אני חושב. Come, bring your chair. Let's see if we can get in here. Yeah, biduk. My point exactly. Got another chair right here. Why don't you get on the chair? Get on the chair. No, it's good this way. All right, great. And Cheryl and Lee, if you give us a thumbs up too in the chat, just let us know that the view is good and everything looks good. You're not getting too much of this, Phil, are you? Move over a little bit to the right. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. All right. So, as I was saying, this isn't the holy. Ooh, look at that. Every time I want to get started, what happens? Something occurs, a little bit of music. Such an important period of time as we light the Chanakya, as we bring the light into our lives, into this period of darkness. And I'm not just talking the time of year, but also with COVID-19, the pandemic that has interrupted the financial markets around the world and people's livelihoods. And we know that has made such a deep impact in so many of us, myself included. To have Hanukkah at this time is just so important. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about the Kedusha, the holiness of this time, you know. Sometimes we make light of it, you know, Hanukkah, time for latkes, time for sufganiyot, time for donuts, a time for fried foods, time for presents. but it's really a time to bring light into our hearts, into our world, into our families, and into the world. This is the goal of the Jewish people. We're supposed to be an Or L'Goyim. We're supposed to be a light upon the nations. Where do we get that light from? Well, one of the sources of light is from the Chanakya. And one of the mitzvahs, one of the commandments is as we light the Chanakya, as we light the menorah, we're supposed to sit there for a half hour, for some time, and just look at the lights, not read by the lights, not use the light for anything else, but just to look at that light. And there is a lot of deep, wonderful, mystical ideas that come from the light of the menorah. And I definitely implore many of you, speak to your community leaders. We have people from across the entire spectrum of Jewish people here with us today. We have people from the Reform movement and the Conservative movement and the Orthodox movement and the Reconstructionist movement. All these different movements that are out there. Talk to your community leader, talk to your rabbi, talk to your rebbitzin, ask them, what does the light really represent, so that I can make the holiday deeper for me, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have something deep here. Don't forget the Christians. I have a live band playing here right now. This really is a very, very special moment. Lots of families. I'm going to take the camera, and you can see here. Again, broadcasting live from the Western Wall here in Jerusalem. Such a special moment as the ambassador from the United States of America, Ambassador Rabbi David Friedman, who we saw earlier, will be the distinguished representative who will be lighting the Chanakya this evening. And along with all of us here right now will be all of you in Atlanta and around the world who have joined the Atlanta Israel Coalition, a wonderful organization bringing Israel to the people in Atlanta and touching people's lives from a very, very broad spectrum. Okay, so while we wait a little bit longer for Rabbi David Friedman to come here, I'll continue just to get this idea out, hopefully, to all of you before the lighting happens, is that the temple is the interface, right, between everything physical. That's why we always pray towards Israel. People in Israel pray towards Jerusalem, and people in Jerusalem pray towards the Western Wall. So what is the Western Wall itself? The Western Wall, hard to hear me with the music? All right. If it's going to be a little hard to hear me, you know what we're going to do? Is we're just going to enjoy these scenes. No, it's good? Sounds good? Okay, awesome. So that's why everybody prays towards Israel. In Israel, you pray towards Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, towards the Western Wall, because you're praying to that place that Jacob slept, the interface between the metaphysical and the physical. However, those stones that are behind me right now, where all of you are really with me right now, albeit virtually, you're really with me right now. Those stones have absorbed the prayers of your ancestors, of your great-great-grandparents, whether they were from Poland, whether they were from Morocco, wherever in the world they were from. All of our families, you go back, 5, 6 generations, everybody's pouring out their hearts. They're all praying to Hashem, all praying towards God, towards these stones. And even though people out there who I guide, they say, David, I don't know what to think of this place. I mean, they're ancient stones. They were built by King Herod 2,000 years ago. And that's impressive, and they're massive. And how did they quarry them out? How did they stack them up? And they didn't use any concrete or any adhesive in between the stones. All of this is amazing. But I don't know, do I believe in God? Do I not believe in God? And I tell them, you know what? Take God out of the equation for just a minute. Don't get bogged down with that question. Let's just look at the science, right? Everybody today is like, look at the science, look at the science. That has become such that should be the number one term, right, of 2020 is science, right? Let's look at the science. So let's look at quantum physics, right? You know, one of the biggest proofs to God for me is E equals MC squared, that everything is energy. Your energy, I'm energy, and the space between us is energy. So really, everything is one, just like we say in the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. It's one. We're all one. So when are our frequencies, right? We're all different balls of energies radiating different frequencies, different vibrations. When are we vibrating the strongest? Is during our prayer, when we're vulnerable. And all of that energy has been absorbed into those stones. So when you're lucky enough to come to Israel, hopefully with me, but when you're lucky enough to come here to Israel and put your hands on those stones, you are literally touching on the energy of your grandparents, of your great-grandparents, of your great-great-grandparents, of your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, all the generations since the destruction of the temple in the year 70 CE. So even though the Western Wall, when it was constructed, was not part of the temple itself, and nobody came here to see the Western Wall, they came to see the temple. It didn't hold any holiness to it. Today, it has a very significant amount of holiness because it contains all of that energy from our prayers from generations that have been directed here. Now, the Western Wall that we see right here is only roughly about 60 meters or 180 feet wide, 180 feet long. But the entire Western Wall is 1,500 feet, 1,500 feet. And if you just look over here, you can see that there are buildings and walls over here that are built on top of arches that have artificially elevated the Muslim Quarter, which is in that direction, which is built right up against the Western Wall. So we don't see it. We only see 180 feet of it, roughly about 60 meters. But again, it's 1,500 feet long. So Cheryl did tell you all that you can post questions in the chat, and she'll pass them forward to my cameraman, Phil, who's with me. And he'll point them out to me from time to time. And I also hope to be able to take some questions, either audibly or written. We'll make some time for those questions. But somebody said, I don't see any women here. I only see men. Are women allowed to be part of the ceremony? Absolutely. And that is why the menorah is located over here, the most southern part of the section over here of the Western Wall. And that's because it's right next to the women's section. So the Western Wall is run under an Orthodox clock, right? It's run in the traditional manner, the same way that the Western Wall has been operated for generations. And so there's a whole women's section over there, also with hundreds of women who are coming to watch the Chanakya. In fact, what we'll do is we'll meet some of them later on, and we'll get a little bit of their perspective and see if they had as high of a spiritual time as we're having right now. I know I am, and I hope you are as well, as we hear the beautiful live music here, waiting for Rabbi Ambassador David Friedman to come and to light the Chanakya here at the Western Wall. You know, Israel is 75 years old, but we've only had the Western Wall, control of Jerusalem itself. Okay. Oh no, he's only taking a picture. He's taking, we've only had control of the Western Wall since 1967. Hold on one second, folks. Yeah, you can go take a look. Phil's gonna take a look at something right now, so I'm just gonna make sure. תודה.
לאחר מכן, ברחבת התפילה, אנחנו מקדישים את נר רביעי של חנוכה לאותם עשרות אלפים פליטי שואה שעדיין נותרו אודים מוצלים מאש, נמצאים כאן כנציגים שלהם מר שלמה גור, סגן נשיא ועידת התביעות בישראל ויושב ראש מרכז הארגונים של ניצולי השואה, וקולט אביטל, חברת הוועד המנהל של ועידת התביעות. לפני שנפתח את טקס הדלקת נרות, נשמע מספר מילים מהם לכבוד אותם ניצולים בשואה.
So the message was talking about Rabbi Shlomo Gorn and the liberation of Jerusalem, which I was talking about a little bit before.
קולט אביטל, יושבת ראש מרכז הארגונים של ניצולי השואה.
The liberation
טקס הזה משודר
of Jerusalem.
אני אקריא את ברכתי לניצולי השואה, כולם בחוץ לארץ בשפה
After the horrible Holocaust,
Tonight,
we found our independence
as we
once
light
again.
the fourth candle of Hanukkah, let us remember Anne Frank's inspiring words. Look how a single candle can both defy and define darkness. Tonight, the Jewish people around the world are lighting hundreds of thousands of candles, united by the same history, by the same tradition, by the same faith. And we remember the miracles of survival of each generation, despite all the trials, tribulations, and persecutions. We remember the courage and heroism of all of you who survived the inferno of the Shoah. Tonight, here at the Kotel, we say loud and clear that we shall continue to overcome the trials and the challenges of our times, the virus of anti-Semitism and the corona, and we shall light the world. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Happy holiday, Hanukkah Sameach. I have so much to say about everything that's been
מכובדיי,
said.
כבוד הגאון הרב יצחק דוד גרוסמן שליט"א, רבה של מגדל העמק וחבר מועצת הרבנות הראשית לישראל, כבוד הרב יעקב אביטן, השר לשירותי דת, כבוד מר עודד פלוס, מנכ"ל המשרד לשירותי דת, כבוד מר אלי ביטן, סגן החשב הכללי במשרד האוצר. כמו שאמרנו, נמצאים כאן נציגים של ארגוני ניצולי השואה, גברת קולט אביטל, יושבת ראש מרכז הארגונים של ניצולי השואה, מר שלמה גור, סגן נשיא ועידת התביעות בישראל, שגריר ארצות הברית בישראל מר דיוויד פרידמן, יועץ לביטחון לאומי בארצות הברית וראש המל"ל. מכובדיי, אנחנו זוכים להדליק נר רביעי של חנוכה כאן במקום הסמוך ביותר לנס פך השמן. נתכבד בהדלקת נר החנוכה על ידי השר לשירותי דת, הרב יעקב אביטן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שקידשנו מצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר חנוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
So they did the candle lighting on top of a roof over there to keep the dignitaries, I'm assuming, a little bit away from the masses. And they're lighting the candles on top of the roof over there. You can see the lights on top of them. You can see the lights. You can see some big globes. And underneath it, you can see the flames that are going up. I am hoping that just momentarily that they're going to come down here to the Kotel in order to light the candles here by the Kotel. We're living in strange times, my friends, but we're bringing light into this dark time. I thought it was beautiful what that lady said, that Jews around the world will be lighting hundreds of thousands. Really? I'm sure it's probably more in the millions. Millions of candles will be lit in the next 24 hours as a symbol of the miracle of Hanukkah, which is really all about the redemption of Israel, saving ourselves from mass assimilation at that time, and also for the miracle of the oil that should have only lasted for one day, but lasted for 8. I'm so afraid to start something right now, and then something's gonna give. But let's turn this around. All right, how y'all doing? So good to be here. I'm actually holding the camera myself right now, and that's all right. That's actually great because I can actually see myself, and I see the Chanakya just right there, and I am made to understand that they will be lighting the Chanakya here soon. Let me just tell you a quick little story. In my home, my wife and I, we have twins. We have 2 6-year-olds, a boy and a girl. And we didn't do the traditional gift giving up until this year. We just lit the candles, and we had donuts and latkes, and we celebrated in that way. And this year, my son and my daughter are both in 1st grade, but my son came to me and he said, you know, Abba, what are you going to give me this year for Hanukkah? And I said, what are you talking about, Binyamin? Right? Binyamin or Binyamin. It's Hebrew for Benjamin. I said, what are you talking about? I see the delegation coming down the stairs, so in about another 5 minutes, hopefully they'll be here. I said, what are you talking about? We don't give gifts on Hanukkah. And he said, at school, all of my friends told me that their parents give them gifts, and I want to get a gift as well. And I said, well, let me think about that. Let me talk about that. Let me talk about that with your mother. And so we talked about it a little bit, and we said, you know what? What is the meaning behind Hanukkah? Like, what happened in Hanukkah? Hanukkah was a nace. Hanukkah was a miracle. And it was a miracle that was given to us. And what was this gift, as I mentioned before? It was the gift of redemption. It was the gift of freedom. We got the, here's come, like I said, a couple more minutes, we'll be down here. A lot of pictures are being taken. Hashem gave us the gift of redemption. And so I said, this is really a time of giving. And I think we should give our kids gifts. And so we did just that this year on the first night. We gave our kids gifts, and I hope you all are giving your kids gifts and giving each other gifts. But hopefully the main gift that we're giving one another is the love that comes from the deepest place, from our hearts, from our souls, from our minds, that we're opening ourselves up, we're making ourselves vulnerable, that we're able to give more. Here comes the folks right now. Let me read the chats.
מוריי ורבותיי, אנחנו זוכים להדליק נר רביעי של חנוכה כאן ליד אבני הקודש במעמד הגאון הרב יצחק דוד גרוסמן שליט"א, רבה של מגדל העמק, השר לשירותי דת הרב אביטן, מר שלמה גור, סגן נשיא ועידת התביעות, מר עודד פלוס, מנכ"ל המשרד לשירותי דת, ומר אלי ביטן, סגן החשב הכללי. זו זכות להדליק כאן במקום הקדוש הזה מתוך תפילה ותקווה ואמונה שעוד בימי החנוכה האלו נזכה לראות את מנורת המקדש בתפארתה, וכימים ההם בזמן הזה נזכה לניסים ולנפלאות. נתכבד בהדלקת נר חנוכה על ידי הגאון הרב יצחק דוד גרוסמן שליט"א.
ברשות הרב הגאון הרב רבינוביץ' שליט"א, שכאן המקום להודות לו ולסולי היקר ולכל האלה שעמלים יום ולילה שהמקום הזה יוכל לקלוט את כל בית ישראל בצורה מפוארת ביותר. ברשות מכובדנו שר הדתות שיחיה, המנכ"ל, סגן החשב, הנציג של הדבר הנפלא של ועידת התביעות, אחים ואחיות יקרים. אנחנו עומדים פה במקום הזה שפה קרה נס. הנס הזה שאנחנו הולכים עכשיו לבטא אותו בהדלקת הנרות קרה פה. כאן מצאו את הפח שמן טהור בחותמת של הכהן הגדול. יקיריי ואהוביי, היו הרבה ניסים בחנוכה. גיבורים נלחמו עם חלשים, רבים ממעטים, ובכל זאת החשמונאים הצליחו. אבל את הנס מבטאים על ידי המנורה. הגמרא אומרת שהמטרה של המנורה בבית מקדש להראות שהקדוש ברוך הוא שוכן בתוך בני ישראל. ולכן היות והיוונים רצו למחוק את הנקודה הזאת, למחוק את הקשר בין עם ישראל לקדוש ברוך הוא, זה היה כל המטרה, להשכיחם תורתך, להעבירם מחוקי רצונך, ועל זה יצאו למלחמה, ובזה היו ניסים ונפלאות. אבל הנס של המנורה שבמתים נמצא בה כל הניסים, כי כל מה שקרה כדי שהשכינה תשרה בתוך עם ישראל. מה אנחנו רואים? נשאר קצת שמן, ומהשמן הזה הדליקו את כל המנורה. הכותל המערבי נשאר קצת מבית המקדש, ממנו בעזרת השם בקרוב ייבנה בית המקדש. אנחנו נמצאים ברגעים נפלאים, יקיריי ואוהביי, שאנחנו מדליקים את הנר חנוכה כרגע הרביעי. כל אחד יחשוב בליבו לשנייה אחת, מה אני יכול לעשות כדי להתקרב יותר לקדוש ברוך הוא, לקבל על עצמנו איזשהו מצווה בתוך הנשמה, כי בורא העולם עכשיו מסתכל כאן ורואה את כולנו ושמח שאנחנו מדליקים את המנורה הקדושה ליד שריד בית מקדשנו, ובורא העולם אומר בעזרת השם, על ידי שאנחנו נתעורר באהבת ישראל, באהבת השם, באהבת ארץ ישראל, יזכנו השם שמיד יבנה את בית המקדש ונזכה להדליק את המנורה בתוך בית המקדש.
Folks, I'll explain a little bit about what he said.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר חנוכה.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
אמן.
נרות הללו אנו מדליקים, הנרות הללו אנו מדליקים, על הניסים ועל הנפלאות ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו, שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם, בימים ההם, בימים ההם בזמן הזה. החוצו ישועתי לך נאה לשבח, תיכון בתפילתי ושם תודה נזמר, ואת המין מטבע מצרים נבע, אז אתמול בשיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח, אז אתמול בשיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח, לבבי בצום עלי, אזי בי חשמלי, ופרצו חומות מגדלי, וטימו כל השממים, ומנות החכמים, רסלת לשושנים, הנה מינה.
Hey Lee, should we head out into the Jewish quarter?
Yes, let's take a
יישר
walk.
כוח לגאון הרב יצחק דוד גרוסמן שליטה, שבמשך כל השנה
All right, folks, we're gonna get out of here before the big rush of people. I hope you all have a little bit more time. You know, things here in Israel run on its own time schedule, its own time frame. And candle lighting was supposed to begin right around 4:30. And as you can see, it's already 10:15 by you, which is 9:15. It's about 10:15 by you, which is 5:15 here in Israel. So we're just going to head out. I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit what Rabbi Grossman said, meet some people, and bring you into the Jewish quarter. It's going to be really, really exciting, and I'm looking forward to doing that. You know, everything here in Israel, you know, they keep things on the hush-hush so that people kind of don't know exactly what's going on all the time, but here we go. All right, so with the Kotel behind me, first of all, Rabbi Grossman. So apparently what took place is that Rabbi Friedman lit the Chanakya up there on top of that building, okay? Lit the Chanakya up there on top of the building. You can see the lights over there. And Rabbi Grossman, spin around, Phil, lit the Chanakya by the Kotel. And I'm sure most of us are more mesmerized, let's say, by the ambassador, David Friedman. But let me tell you, Rabbi David Grossman is a righteous, righteous man. I had the honor of meeting him several years ago. He was a chassid in Meir Sharim, which is like the ultra-religious area here in Jerusalem. And at the age of 20, he says, enough of being confined in these imaginary walls in this ghetto, you could say, of Meir Sharim. We need to reach out to the people who are lost and don't know the meaning behind the actions of Judaism, behind the mitzvahs of Judaism. and he moved to a place called Emek Yisrael, and he really turned on an entire community over there on Shabbat. On Shabbat, he would walk into discotheques where a lot of bad things were happening. And I'm not just talking that it was a discotheque, there was undesirable people of society who were hanging out these places. And here comes this rabbi with the big beard and the peyot, and he would come in there and he would say Kiddush for these people, and then he would leave and he would go back to his house. Amazing person. But he was talking about was the fight of Israel, the fight for our identity, the fight for who we are, and the fight for the land that we love, which is the land of Israel. So come with me as we head towards the Jewish quarter. But you know what? Let's just stop. We'll ask somebody a quick question. Shalom. מה שלומך?
אני לא מדברת עברית.
לא מדבר עברית? Where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta.
Get the heck out. You're from Atlanta?
Yeah.
Here, hold on a second. You know what? We have another microphone, but right here, this is unbelievable. I just talked to this young lady over here. She's from Atlanta. You know, I'm guiding a group right now from Atlanta called the Atlanta Israel Coalition.
Oh my goodness.
Which reaches out around the world, bringing Israel to people. They're based in Atlanta. They work a lot in Atlanta, but around the world. What's your name?
My name's Carly Schindler.
Carly Schindler. And what are you
Yes.
doing here in Israel?
I'm on a gap year program.
How are you here on a gap year? The borders are closed. How's that possible?
We got a student visa. It was a whole to do.
And so you're going to be here for an entire year?
Till May.
Till May. And is this your first time in Israel?
This is my first time in Israel.
First time in Israel. So your first time at the wall?
This is my, I think, third time at the wall, but my first time coming on Hanukkah. So
Unbelievable. How was it? What was your experience like?
it was so cool. When everyone I didn't know what they were saying, but when everyone said amen to the prayers that I did now, it was like, I got chills. It was so cool. I felt like I was at the Rockefeller Center with the tree, but it was with Hanukkah. It was at the Menorah. It was so awesome.
You know, that it's a very good point that you should actually bring up right there, where you say, you know, I felt like I was at the tree, because one of the great things I think about Israel is when I'm walking down the streets, all the names of the streets are named after our heroes, or after our biblical heroes, our modern day heroes, because we live in a Jewish country, right, in America. Okay, so the big thing is Rockefeller Center, you light up the Christmas tree. Here, we light up the world with the Chanakya.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. I hope you have an incredible year. I can't believe we
you
just
so
met
much.
somebody from Atlanta. How cool is that? We meet somebody from Atlanta. What was your name again?
Carly Schindler.
Carly Schindler. Maybe your mom's out there. Say hello to your mom.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Well, unbelievable. Hanukkah Sameach, and have an amazing year filled with bracha, with blessings and inspiration, and everything should just be amazing for you.
Toda.
All the best. Very, very cool. Come, we're going to continue heading out of the Western Wall area and towards the Jewish quarter. And I know you guys have been with me almost for an hour already. And that's really what we were thinking about doing the tours for an hour. But again, JTS, right? JST, Jewish Standard Time. Things never work on time, especially here in Israel. The candlelight was supposed to happen at 4:30, happens at 5:15. What can you do? Lots of logistical things that you have to work through. Here, how you doing, buddy? And so this was also my first time coming here, doing this candle lighting on Zoom. Really great experience. Again, big thank you to the Atlanta Israel Coalition for all the great work you do for Israel around the world, really, not just Atlanta, but really around the world. And I also want to give a special shout out and a thank you to all the Christians who are joining us as well, because Atlanta Israel Coalition works, you know, across the divide, works with Christians around the world as well, bringing them the facts, watch out for the car, bringing them the facts of Israel and the inspiration that comes forth from this land. And really, you know, when it comes to Christians and Hanukkah, I believe that Hanukkah should be celebrated by Christians as well. And why? Well, without Hanukkah, the temple would have been destroyed many, many years before. And without the temple, of course, you wouldn't have the story of Jesus. So there you go. Even Christians should be celebrating the story of and the miracle of Hanukkah. So here we are going through the revolving door over here for the security to make sure that people are going through the metal detector on their way in. Okay. Yeah, anybody who's been to Israel knows that Jerusalem is in the middle of the Judean mountains, and everything is built on hilltops here. And usually, historically, the agriculture will be done in the valleys, but as a result, here in the Old City, now that we're down at the Western Wall, which is at the bottom of the hill, so now we're climbing up to the Jewish quarter. And believe it or not, the Jewish quarter is the smallest of all the quarters here in the Old City. We have 4 quarters. And you might say, well, that's obvious. A quarter is 1/4. But when we say the various quarters, we're not talking about quarters like a quarter this, quarter that. We're talking about living quarters. So what are the 4 living quarters? Who resides in them? Well, obviously you have a Jewish quarter, and we can understand why there's a Jewish quarter. It's our eternal spiritual capital. And thank God today, it's also our physical capital. So what are the other 3 quarters? Well, we have the Christian quarter. And for obvious reasons, the entire Christian theology is based around crucifixion and resurrection, which 90% of all Christians believe that this took place here in the Old City of Jerusalem. So there's an entire quarter as designated for Christians. And then you have the Muslim quarter. And the Muslims actually have the largest quarter here in the Old City. And that's because they conquered the land in the year 638 CE. And other than a brief 200-year period, give or take, when the European Crusaders came and conquered the land, they have been in control of it, various empires, Cairo, Damascus, Istanbul, Mecca, Medina. And so they have the largest quarter. And then you have the Armenian quarter. And you think to yourself, the Armenian quarter, who are the Armenians and why did they get a quarter? We're gonna make a left. We're gonna make a left, Bill. Why do they have a quarter? So the Armenians actually have a very, very old history here, very, very long history, very ancient history. They were here during the destruction of the Second Temple, which took place in the year 70 CE. So we have the 4 quarters. We have the Armenian quarter, the Muslim quarter, the Christian quarter, and the Jewish quarter. And the Jewish quarter, believe it or not, again, it's the smallest of all of the quarters if you take out the whole Western Wall, which again is open to everybody. Unlike the Temple Mount, where the Dome of the Light is, here, I'll take it. I'm gonna try and light it up a little bit here. Unlike the Temple Mount, which is restricted for Muslims and only Muslims to pray. Look, we're walking down some of the alleyways over here. And you can see their Chanakyot that are lit outside their homes. And what we're going to do right now is we are heading to the home of a friend of mine, somebody who I know here in the Old City. And we'll just speak to her for a few moments and just try and get an understanding and a feeling for Slach lanu? Slicha? Hopefully she's there. Again, we're late even arriving to her home because of all the logistics here, but very beautiful. In fact, I lived here in the Old City for about 4 years. And I lived just over here to the left down this alleyway. There's just one door over there to the right. And this was my little small apartment when I was learning in a yeshiva here. And this is one of my favorite streets here. So you can see all of the beautiful Chanakyot. Just amazing. So this is actually my friend who lives here. Let's see if she said, is David Sussman. Hanukkah Sameach, Hanukkah Sameach. Come on out, come on out. I'm afraid to come in. I'm gonna lose reception over here. So this is the Bash family, and the Bashes are from England and from South Africa, and they've been here for a very, very long time. And I've known this family since I lived, as I was just their neighbor living around the corner over here. For what? It's got to be at least 12 years. I want to say 13 years. More than that. Now, it's unbelievable. And they have a wonderful, beautiful, large family. And you can see on the table that them and all their kids have lit Chanukiot, bringing the light of Hanukkah. As we heard during the presentation, the candle lighting ceremony at the Western Wall, hundreds of thousands, and I would like to say millions of candles will be lit over the next 24 hours commemorating this incredible miracle. And Kim, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, the second mic, which I have over here, is not working. So we are going to swap this over.
No problem.
And so for you, a couple of quick questions. You could talk to our friends over here from Atlanta and really from around the world. Just a little bit about the Atlanta Israel Coalition. They bring Israel to people around the world. They're just based in Atlanta, but they do a lot of incredible work, broad spectrum, Reform, conservative, Orthodox, Christians, you name it. Anybody who wants to connect to Israel, they can just turn to the Atlanta Israel Coalition. So what brought you to Israel from South Africa? What brought you to the old city? And like living here in the old city, like what do you do for work? And what is Hanukkah like living here in the old city? Let me give you the microphone.
A lot of questions. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Hanukkah Sameach to everybody. So I've been living in Israel now for 19 years. I actually made Aliyah from New York, not actually from South Africa. I was working in Manhattan. I was working for the UJA Federation, actually. And I got involved in going to some classes on the Upper West Side. And somebody said to me, well, you know, maybe you should go learn a little bit about your heritage. And I was like, I grew up in a very secular background, and I didn't even know my Aleph base until I came to live in Israel. So I came on a program and I started to learn. So I never knew anything. So I came here on a program, and let's say the rest is history. And I started to learn, and I realized that there was no other place besides Israel. And this is where I just felt that this is where I should be. And I very strongly feel that every Jew should be in Israel if you can be here. It is our home. It's a homeland for every single Jew, and it's a melting pot of every type of person here. And what I do, I work in real estate. I actually work very much with people making Aliyah. And one of the things I do is I try and find communities for people. So I'm like the property matchmaker, but community matchmaker. So if you're looking to make Aliyah, then I'm your person to reach out to. And I try and help you find the right place to move to. And also if people are looking for second homes, I do that as well. I work across the country, primarily in Jerusalem. And because of COVID, people are not able to make pilot trips, as you know. So a lot of people are actually turning to us. We do every single week a different community in Israel. Tonight we're actually doing Talmond, which is near Renana, and we try and bring
forward some of that information.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
We only have a little bit of time.
Sure.
And if you could just tell us a little bit. Now you've been here, I know, for at least 15 years, because that's how long.
19 years. 19 years. Yes.
So tell us a little bit what it's like celebrating Hanukkah here in the Old City, and what it means to you to have these Hanukkah here, where it seems like everybody's Jewish. So like, why light the Chanukiot outside of your home? Everybody's Jewish. Everybody's lighting the Chanukiot. Everywhere you go, you see the Chanukiot.
Well, I first of all, for me, Hanukkah is always about family and the coming together. All of us. It's so beautiful. The whole street during candlelighting, all of us are out here and we're singing, and it's such a beautiful experience. And just like the Hanukkah candles are a lot. Every, the one candle, you light another candle. It's bringing lightness. The Greeks tried to extinguish our flame, and we're still here. And for me, it's just a time of oneness. my Rebbetzin, who she should be well, used to always say, life is like this tapestry. The back of the tapestry is this big mess, but when you turn it over, there's this beautiful picture. And especially during the dark times, which we're going through, COVID has been an incredibly hard year for so many people. We have to look at all the amazing, just opportunities to spend with our family during this time, which we wouldn't have actually got to do, except for the homeschooling, which I really didn't like. But it gave us a true, time to be with our family, to really see what is important in life. And for me, that's Hanukkah as well. It's just we stand strong as a nation. We stand strong as a people. And yeah.
That's beautiful, Kim, and it is a time for families
Sorry,
to come
gotta put my
together
mask
to
on.
light the candles, to bring this light into the families. Let me just ask you such a basic question, nothing to do with Hanukkah. Where do you shop for your food?
We have actually a community shop that they bring everything to the old city, and we order online, and it's not as hard as people think. So we do it. It's an amazing place to live, a magical place to live. Unbelievable.
Well, thank you,
Happy
Kim.
Hanukkah, everybody. Hope to see you in Eretz Israel soon.
Amen. Please God. Thank you so much.
pleasure.
And Hanukkah Sameach to you and your beautiful, wonderful family. All
God
the
bless
best.
everybody.
Okay, we're going to continue. I'm going around a little bit here. I want you just to see the main square. We're limited for time, and I do apologize, all this logistical stuff. And I tell you what I'm going to say right now, live right here on this Zoom tour with the Atlanta Israel Coalition, is that I'm going to go ahead and offer all of you another tour of the Jewish Quarter when it's not Hanukkah and it's a little bit more calm. And we don't feel pressed for time running to the various candle lighting ceremonies, which has been wonderful. Because I also want to share with you a lot of the sites here in the Old City that we're not going to be able to go to, again, because of time. So I'm going to talk to Lee and Cheryl. Again, I'm going to offer it for free for all of you with the Atlanta Israel Coalition. We'll unite together, and maybe we're going to do it next week, next Sunday, same time, same place. And we'll be able to see more of the Old City and of the Jewish Quarter. Just right here, you see this is a memorial. And this is a memorial for the fighters of the Old City in 1948, not 1967. You have to remember that in 1948, believe it or not, the Jews had a larger population, right? The Jews have a very large population here in the Old City, but we lost to the Jordanians and we were forced out of the Old City. And as fighters, as young as 12 years old, were being killed in the streets of the Old City, this is where they were buried. Nobody is buried here right now. The bones and the bodies were exhumed and reinterred on the Mount of Olives, which is considered to be the holiest cemetery here in Israel. It's just across the valley on the other side of the Western Wall. You have a view of the Eastern Wall from there. And we know where kings of Israel are buried there, prophets of Israel are buried there. And it is the oldest active Jewish cemetery in the world. We're going to go through right now a bit of a tunnel. Again, this is all built a long time ago. I'm hoping that the internet will carry us through. So we're going to go pretty quickly because I know it won't be good enough for you to all hear me. So we're just going to kind of go quickly through this area. Shalom, Chaverim.
David, can you hear me? There are a few questions from the audience that I'd love to ask. Hopefully we'll be able to do that when we're through the tunnel.
Two? All right, perfect. All right, folks. All right, I have got the headset on and I can hear
David?
all of you and I can handle some questions, Cheryl.
Thank you. A attendee wants to know what the significance of wearing skull caps or black hats are. The caps are different colors, the skull caps. Is that just personal preference?
Great question. Hold on one second. First of all, the head covering is a minhag. It's a custom. It's not actually a mitzvah. It's not commanded to cover your hair in the Torah, but it's something that we've been doing for a very, very long time. And it's to remind us at all times that we have somebody, a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that we have Hashem, we have God, who is above us. So some people will wear a white kippah, like you can see this gentleman walking past us right now. And that tells me that he's a follower of Rabbi Nachman, one of the great rabbis from the 19th century, the 1800s. And you'll have people with different types of black hats. And that's different followers of different rabbis and different Hasidic movements from various areas in Poland and what's today Belarusia and Lithuania, Latvia, and the various areas around the Jewish communities in Europe. Some people will have a velvet kippah, right? Some people will have a knitted kippah. You guys could take a look at my kippah, right? So, you know, these all have meanings to people who really understand them on a deeper level. Like, for instance, I usually wear a baseball cap. And I walk around, most people are like, oh, he's American. He's wearing a baseball cap. That's a typical American type of attire. Now, my baseball cap will have a B on it because I'm originally from Boston and I like the Red Sox. It just happens to be that I was born in Boston. That's why. But anybody who knows baseball knows that I'm a fan now of the Boston Red Sox. I'm not just American. I'm probably from Boston. I like baseball. I like the Red Sox. So that tells them a little bit more information. So people who are in the world of these various skull caps, of these different hats, the furry ones, the tall ones, the short ones, the big brim, the pointed brim, they'll know what team, right, that they play for, which rabbi they're playing for. Of course, we're all playing the same sport. We all have the same goal in mind, which is achdut, which is unity. So I hope that answered the question a little bit. And I can definitely field some more with the time we have.
There are individuals who want to know more about the menorahs and the boxes, if there's a significance in the casings holding the menorahs on the tables outside holds.
Great. So I'm going to answer that by talking about something totally different. How's that for being Jewish? So just like you have a mezuzah on your door, and the mezuzahs are different looking from the outside, that's just because that's what's beautiful to you. You want to beautify the mitzvah, and the real mitzvah is the scroll that's inside of that covering. The mitzvah of Hanukkah is literally just lighting the candles. Even if a gust of wind comes and blows out the candle, a second later, you did the mitzvah. The mitzvah is lighting the candle. That's it. Say the bracha, the blessing, and light the candle. You did the mitzvah. People want to beautify it. They want to put it outside in order to display it to the world, to remind people of the miracle of Hanukkah. Really, we're supposed to light it outside. That's why people have it outside. That really is the halacha. That's the Jewish laws, that we're supposed to light it outside. But the boxes is just a personal expression of the mitzvah itself. But since we're on the line of menorahs, and you can see another menorah just over here that's being lit. And this one has like arms that make V's. I don't know if you can see that so well, but they make arms like V's. So that is a menorah that belongs to the Chabad movement. I'm sure you guys have heard of Chabad. That's a Chabad style menorah. And so they have one that's lit over here. But come over here with me. You'll see a whole nother type of menorah. You can see a beautiful golden menorah behind me. That's actually made with 2.5 pounds of pure golds. It is an alloy, but it is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think, just in gold alone. And this is fit to be used in the temple itself. Now look at the branches. Look at the arms of the candelabra. How many do you count? Right, you only count 7, but a Chanakya has 8. In America, we call the Chanakya a menorah, but it's really not a menorah. A menorah has 7 branches and a Chanakya has 8. So this menorah is fit to be used in the temple, whereas the Chanakya is something that we only use to commemorate the miracle of this time. Do we have time for some more questions, Cheryl?
I believe we do.
Wonderful. Would you rather me walk around and see some more sites, or should we wait for that for the next tour?
I think that we're running out of time, unfortunately, but very excited about the next tour, and it's totally up to you.
All right, great. So I think we will wait, just because I want to be able to give it the time it deserves.
Perfect. One of the questions is, can you describe the history of the Jerusalem menorah?
Hello?
David?
Oh, yes. The history of the Jerusalem.
Menorah.
What, the one behind me?
I guess.
I'm not too sure what the Jerusalem menorah.
Maybe go.
The one that's at the western wall, the Kotel.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I don't know the artist or who made that. I apologize.
That's okay. So someone wants to know what building is behind the golden menorah that you're standing in front of.
Fantastic. And we're going to take a deep dive on that next week, I promise. But this is the Chorva Synagogue. And this synagogue looks brand new. And it was reconstructed in 2010 after it was destroyed by the Jordanians during the War of Independence in 1948. Now, even that synagogue that was destroyed in 1948 was a reconstruction of an earlier synagogue that was built in the 18th century, in the early 1700s. And that's why they call it the Chorva Synagogue, which means something that has been ruined, something that's been destroyed. Now, interestingly enough, is you have another synagogue just down these stairs underneath it, right? The lower you go, the deeper you dig, the older it gets. And you have a synagogue from the Ramban, sorry. And that dates back to the 13th century to the 1200s. And here you have a mosque. And a lot of people will come here and they'll see the mosque and they'll see the synagogue and they'll think to themselves, well, it's obvious who came here first, right? You got an old mosque, you have a new synagogue. But if they don't actually dig deep and learn the history of what's really going on here, then they can go home, they can go around with this misinformation. Because really this mosque was built in the 15th century, the 1400s, when there was an Islamic ruler here in Jerusalem who threw the Jews out. And they kicked them out of the synagogue that was built by the Ramban, and they built a mosque on top of it. But if you don't have somebody who tells you this history, you could look at that and think to yourself, wait a second, who was here first? So it's very, very important that you connect with organizations like the Atlanta Israel Coalition, that you connect with organizations that are teaching you and your children, especially if you got kids who are going to college, the truth about Israel and what's happening here, in order that they can be armed with information and to speak intelligently about Israel and speak about the facts that are here. So just down below over here, you can see a street that's known as the Cardo. And this was built after the Bar Kokhba revolt of 135 CE. And again, here we have a foreign entity, a foreign empire throwing the Jews out of the land of Israel and building something in its stead. There you had a synagogue, a mosque, right? Here, the Romans kicked the Jews out and they built a typical Roman structure known as a Cardo, which was like the heart of the city. And this is where all the shopping took place, right? In fact, if you look over there in that corner, you can still see two of the original arches, and people would walk down the thoroughfare here, and those would be the shops that they would go shopping in. And then they had these pillars with these beautiful Corinthian capitals, and you'd have these big sheets of wood going across with palm leaves on top, offering shade for people who were walking and doing their shopping. Now, there's a lot to speak about this. In fact, this is my favorite place to guide in Jerusalem and maybe all of Israel, because partly it has nothing to do with the Jews because it was built by the Romans, but it has everything to do with the Jews. And so we are going to talk about that on our next tour when we go a little bit more in depth on all of these places. So let's just continue just walking over here. And I just want to point something out that I think is important for this time period. You can see here some of the restaurants, the pizza shops, the cafes that are here. But what you
David,
have over here, yes, Cheryl.
somebody's asking why they don't rebuild the temple.
Good question. Again, I have to answer with another story. I went and spoke to the JCC, the Jewish community in Atlantic City. I think it was in a place called Ventor or something of that nature. And they flew me in from Israel. It was a big function. And as soon as I arrived, the head of this JCC, he said to me, "Don't you think it's offensive that they have a menorah in the Jewish quarter?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Yeah, there's that golden menorah and it's fit to use in the temple. Don't you think that's offensive to the Arabs?" And I was shocked. I didn't even know how to respond at first. And I said, "Well, I mean, are you telling me that this golden menorah that I can use as an object to educate people what the menorah looked like, what the menorah represented, how it was used, why this is a kosher one, why another one might not be kosher? I shouldn't have that because it offends people that it exists, that it sits there, that it stands there?" He goes, "Well, it's not that it's there, it's that they want to put it in the temple. They want to destroy the Dome of the Rock, right? Because there's a old Islamic structure that's in the place where the temple, only place the temple can be built." He says, "They have to destroy that. And I don't want World War III. And I told him, "I don't want World War III either. I want the temple. I don't want World War III. Don't you think that maybe, the Arabs that run that area will come to their senses and they'll say, hey, we have our holy place in Mecca and Medina, in a place called Saudi Arabia today. And this is the ancient home of the Jewish temple. It was here for over 1,000 years. And this is the Jewish home. Maybe we can move our structure here. We can move it to the side. And maybe we can let the Jews build it here. Maybe you could come in a peaceful way. But don't you want the temple? Isn't that what you're striving for? Don't you want to see the temple to be rebuilt?" And he just looked at me and he said, "I never really thought about it that way. So why don't we build the temple, right? Well, right now, if we were to go up there and we were, bomb it and destroy the Dome of the Rock, it is going to produce some type of war. But if we, through our good deeds and through our actions, maybe we'll be deserving of a miracle just like the one we experienced 2,200 years ago when the Maccabees defeated the Greeks. And we have the story of Hanukkah. Maybe we'll be given another redemption and we'll be able to build the temple once again. I'm praying for that. I hope you're praying for that. I hope you want that. And I hope you want it through peaceful means. So if there's no other questions, I'll talk a little bit about this. This is just a very brief thing. What you have over here is an old olive press, talking about the Chanakya and lighting the menorah. So you have to crush the olives in order to make your olive oil to light your Chanakya. So this stone would normally be laying down and you would have a pole coming in from the top and or actually it'd be like this and it'd come from the side and you could have an animal going around. This is going to roll and it's going to crush your olives in order to bring out the oil, which we all desire. Shell, do I have time for one more story?
I'm from Atlanta.
Oh my gosh, listen to this. Somebody was just tuning in here in the old city who lives here and actually came out and said, "I'm from Atlanta and I want to say hello to my friends." I promise this was not scheduled.
Anyway, what I want to tell you, in Atlanta, you want to have a good time, you go to Stone Mountain, you go to Morningside Park, you go to Zabin. In the old city where I raised my children, they come here and play on this. They play on the ruins of the Roman Empire. They play on the ruins of the Second Temple period. That's just what we did over here. But as Rabbi Feldman always told us, Atlanta and Jerusalem are in the same, what's the latitude?
Yes.
Line on the globe. So I guess just holy is holy. What can I say? Love y'all.
What's your name?
I'm Shoshi Hirsch Sullivan, Ben and Jackie's daughter.
Wow, very cool. Well, thanks for joining us. Thank you.
They called from Atlanta. They called from Atlanta to tell us to come here.
Unbelievable. And there's other people from Atlanta. That is what they just told me. There's other people from Atlanta who are living here in the old city apparently as well. That's what they just told me. So do we have some time for some more questions?
I think we
I
do.
don't hear anything. Did it end?
Oh no, oh no, oh no.
Can you hear me, David?
Uh-huh. Take that. Let me see. All righty. So I don't hear anything. Phil's went out. Yes. Okay. So you're gonna have to type messages to me to let me know what's going on. I'm gonna walk a little this way. You can see how busy it's getting here. And you imagine they allow cars to drive through here. All of these people here. I live in the suburbs. I live just a little south of Jerusalem in a place called Efrat. It's about halfway between Jerusalem and Hebron. And right now, Phil cannot hear you, but he is trying to fix that problem. And in Efrat, I got to tell you, everybody really keeps their distance, and I'm just, it's amazing to see. It's wonderful to see in one part, to see all these people here who are celebrating, and please God, everybody's going to be healthy, and everybody will return home, and in 2 weeks find out that everybody's negative. Please God. I hope you all are staying healthy, and I hope that also the community of Beth Jacob is healing as well. I read in the news that they had a tragedy that happened over by them. So you had people praying for you here in Israel, that being me, and I'm sure many others as well. So we're gonna head up here. So I can hear you once again, Cheryl. So let me know if you have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you. I know somebody's looking forward to asking some questions on the next tour that we do about the Golden Menorah. And I think that...
think about those questions we have. Hey, I'm just going to show you this little shop that's open. This was done by an artist who's no longer with us, but he was an American, I believe from Chicago. And he painted these beautiful paintings representing the Tehillim that was written by King David. You can just see how beautiful it is. Some of these beautiful pieces that are here. But I'm taking you to a courtyard that I know just around the corner. You'll see many beautiful Chanukiot.
David, do you know the population of the Jewish quarter?
Population of Jewish quarter is right around 2,000, maybe 2,500. There's about 600 families who live here. The entire old city is about 38,000 people. And I just want you to think about this for a second, right? Here's a courtyard, residential courtyard here in the old city. This is where people are living. They're lighting their Chanukiot in their windows. Here it's outside. So in the mid-19th century, the 1800s, there was only about 1,200 people who lived here. The walls have not expanded. It's the same amount of space. So there was only about 1,200 people here, and a majority of them were actually Jewish. So in the last 150 years, I don't know how many multiple times over the population has become, but you have about 38,000 people who live here now. We're just going to be heading up here towards the Armenian Quarter, which is going to take us towards Jaffa Gate. You can see all the families who came for the candle lighting. All exiting, going back to their homes and light their own Chanukiot. Cheryl, do we have some more questions?
Somebody wants to know, she said she only thought one light was lit every night, but she sees lots of lights outside houses. Is there a reason for that?
Right. So I don't know if you mean by one candle or if you mean many different menorahs. but I'll answer both.
Okay.
So there is a Mishnah and a Gemara, the oral Torah, that talks about lighting the Chanakya. It's actually in the tractate of Shabbat. And there's a debate between the rabbis 1800 years ago. Do we light one candle each night, representing the miracle of that day? Or do we increase one candle each night? So the first night, one candle, second night, two candles, third night, three candles. Or do we start with 8 candles and each day we decrease a candle? So we can see what the verdict was. We light one candle the first night, another one the second night, then 3 on the third, and tonight's the fourth. That's why there's 4 candles. However, it's also customary for each member of the family to light their own Chanakya. So a family of 4, like mine, we have 4 Chanakyot. If we have a family of 6, you have 6 Chanakyot and 6 menorahs. So we're leaving the Jewish quarter here, and I'm going to talk a lot about this on the next tour. You can see it says, "Welcome to the Jewish quarter." And that's if we're going to walk from the way that we just came from. But we're leaving the Jewish quarter now. We're entering into the Armenian quarter as we head towards Jaffa Gate.
David,
Yes, Cheryl.
what are the restrictions due to COVID, and is there a mask mandate?
So the restrictions here are similar, I think, to some cities in America. First of all, everybody has to wear a mask. You can get fined, $125 roughly, 500 shekels for not wearing a mask. And restaurants are closed, except for takeout. And every now and then they're giving them permission to do outdoor dining. Gyms are closed, swimming pools are closed. And of course, everybody's trying to keep socially distanced, trying to keep 6 feet from one another. However, unlike America, Israel, the government has complete control. And what do I mean by that? Is that we've had national shutdown, which means that you're not allowed to leave your house more than 500 meters or 1,500 feet. And we've experienced those, the first one in March was about 6 weeks long. And just recently we had one as well that was about 3 weeks long. And that's when the cases began to really spike in order to bring the numbers down. Then the numbers go back up and we have another lockdown. Numbers go down, open everything up, numbers go back up. But hopefully, please God, it does look promising that these new vaccines that are coming out, that we'll be able to finally end this pandemic once and for all. Now, I do see that the time is coming near an end. So once again, I want to remind you all, I'm going to offer you all a free tour next week, most likely. And it's going to be the same time. It's going to be here in the old city. It won't be Hanukkah. It's not going to be a zoo. It's not going to be so many people. And we'll be able to visit all the sites and talk about them and give them the time that they deserve. 2 is I really want to thank the AIC, the Atlanta Israel Coalition. I want to thank their partners, especially the Jewish Federation. And I want to implore you to help this organization by donating whatever you can so that they can continue to provide quality educational and community program on all aspects of Israel. So you're going to receive a follow-up email. Please take a look at that follow-up email. I'll have all the information of where you can give a donation. And of course, I'll have the information for our tour of the Jewish Quarter next week.
Thank you, David, so much.
Cheryl, it's been a pleasure. And thank you all for joining me on this Hanukkah. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it inspiring. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Hanukkah Sameach from Jerusalem.
We definitely look forward to that. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. Now, aside from having another tour, we hope to provide you with additional tours throughout other areas of Israel. Please follow our Facebook page or our YouTube. Definitely join our email list so you don't miss any of it. The Atlanta Israel Coalition. We want to thank our promotional partners, the media. We definitely want to thank our community sponsor, Morbido Wealth Management again. Without all of you, we couldn't be here. Definitely need to thank David Sussman and his wonderful cameraman, Phil. And we will definitely have some exciting events. We want to invite you all to continue joining us. We'll have a survey. We would appreciate if you could follow up and take the survey. It's definitely going to help us make sure that we have programming that y'all are interested in doing. Again, our goal is to unite, and we'd love to hear back from you. So please stay in touch. At 3 o'clock today, if you had friends who just couldn't be here for one reason or another, let them know that they could see the tour on the Facebook Live watch party for the Atlanta Jewish Times broadcast. And we will be providing additional content on our YouTube page. So please follow and like that. Thank you again, Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta, Morbido Wealth Management, and all of our promotional partners for being here today. We look forward to seeing y'all again soon. Happy holidays.